Coming up on this Thursday edition of Newsline at Noon, with Koreans choking on fine dust particles blown in from China, Seoul seeks joint efforts with China to develop a model to better forecast aerial fine dust levels in the region. In one of his strongest condemnations of North Korea, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry calls the North an evil place, saying the world should be very concerned about human rights abuses by the reclusive nation. Plus, the United States says any Russian military intervention in Ukraine will be a grave mistake after Russian President Vladimir Putin puts 150,000 Russian combat troops on high alert for war games near Ukraine. These stories and more on Newsline at Noon. Thanks for joining us. You're watching Newsline at Noon. I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul.
Very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. Now, you can see it and sometimes even smell and taste it. Most of Korea has been blanketed under a thick layer of fine dust over the past week or so, and the sky remains thick with smog.
As the Environment Ministry's daily forecast on fine dust levels have come under fire for being inaccurate, Seoul has decided to team up with Beijing, a city notorious for its own choking pollution. Our Shin Se-min starts us off.
Thick, toxic smog has blanketed large parts of central Korea and the capital, Seoul, over the last few days. Responding to criticism that country's smog forecast system is not up to standards, Environment Minister Yoon Seong-kyu says Korea will jointly develop a new forecast model with Beijing to better prepare citizens for fine dust waves that are headed to Korea. The ministry says China has far superior technology than Korea and Japan in terms of atmospheric forecasting. Currently, the Environment Ministry receives information on observational data as it continuously updates emission quantity data. However, once the cooperative model is running, Seoul will be able to use Chinese data directly, helping to improve the accuracy of its forecast. No date has been announced yet on when the new system will be up and running. Seoul's Environment Ministry has been repeatedly criticized for its inaccurate fine dust forecast after a series of failures to predict the level of fine dust in the air. The Chinese government claims to be working on intensive fine dust reduction measures, pledging to spend tens of billions of dollars to clean up the extremely high level of air pollution along eastern China and the capital, Beijing. The toxic particles in the smog carried by winds from China can cause respiratory problems, asthma, and chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. Earlier this week, the Korean government issued an ultrafine dust warning as the capital's atmospheric concentration levels of the most hazardous PM 2.5 particles hit 98 micrograms per cubic meter. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has urged the world to pay closer attention to the dire human rights situation in North Korea, calling the isolated nation a, quote, evil, evil place.
Our Ju has the details.
In his strongest condemnation of North Korea yet, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has branded the country an evil place and slammed the regime for its grave human rights abuses and nuclear weapons program. In an interview with American network MSNBC on Wednesday, Kerry said there was no doubt North Korea is one of the most closed and cruel places on earth, and there is evil taking place there that all of us should be deeply concerned about. He emphasized the need for enormous focus by the world in order to hold the regime accountable, and that every aspect of any law that can be applied should be applied. Addressing the serious human rights abuses and corruption in the North, the top U.S. diplomat pointed out that North Korea has conducted numerous executions and forced people to watch them do so. Kerry also said he had very serious discussions on North Korea's nuclear weapons program with Chinese officials during his recent trip to Beijing, and added the two countries will continue to press Pyongyang to take action. Kerry's comments come after a UN-mandated inquiry last week described systematic, widespread, and grave human rights violations taking place in North Korea. The inquiry will present its findings to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva next month and call on the UN to refer the situation in the North to the International Criminal Court. Ojin-shu, Arirang News.
Korea has posted its 24th consecutive monthly current account surplus, but the amount tightened to its smallest in almost a year in January. The Bank of Korea says the country's current account surplus stood at slightly over $3.6 billion in January, down some 40% from a month earlier due to a fall in exports and increased spending on overseas travel. The central bank said exports dropped in January because most of the country was taking time off over the Lunar New Year holiday. Korea's yearly surplus for 2013 clocked in at a record $70.7 billion, but the central bank expects it to fall to $55 billion this year as the government looks to strike a better balance between domestic demand and exports.
The amount of loans provided by non-bank financial institutions has been snowballing and now represents about half of the total household debt. The Bank of Korea says the amount of the loans held by second-tier financial institutions, such as life insurers and mutual savings banks, stood at $450 billion at the end of last year. It is the highest loan amount from the non-bank sector since Korea started keeping track of such data in 2002. Experts say borrowers who rely on non-bank institutions tend to have lower credit ratings, and with debt defaults and bad loans on the rise, the nation's debt problem could be compounded.
You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone, especially a young person here in Korea, that doesn't use messaging app Kakao Talk. It is everywhere, so it might not come as too big of a surprise to learn that it's been spotlighted as the local internet company, with the best brand value.
Korea's stock exchanges are lining up to attract its operator before it goes public next year. Our Connie Lee has more.
Kakao Corporation has set its sights on the market. Known for its popular messaging app Kakao Talk, the company is preparing for an initial public offering next year in May on one of Korea's stock exchanges. Korea's tech-heavy Kosdaq market is already fighting to bring the developer to its stock exchange over the benchmark Kospi. According to industry insiders on Thursday, the Kosdaq has set up a task force to draw Kakao Corporation. This comes as Kakao said it is very close to signing a deal to hire Morgan Stanley and Samsung Securities as advisors for the IPO. Sources say that after the company goes public, its value could exceed $2 billion. And with strong interest in the mobile messaging market, insiders say it has a potential to raise between $1 billion and $5 billion. Kakao Corporation is Korea's dominant messaging platform, with Kakao Talk, which was released in 2010. With 133 million registered users, it is now one of the fastest-growing mobile messaging services. And it earned its first annual profit in 2012 with its mobile games. Although it is facing fierce competition in the mobile messaging world, Kakao Talk is one of the most valued internet brands. Research firm Brandstock ranked Kakao Talk first over the popular Korean portal site Naver. It's the first time in 10 years that Naver lost the top spot. Kakao also ranked above the number 3 Facebook, Twitter, and Taum. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye has joined the Council of Women World Leaders, a network of former and current women prime ministers and presidents. The council said Wednesday that it's happy to have President Park as one of its 48 members. The council added it hopes to promote women's leadership in conjunction with the president, noting that she has sought to eradicate violence against women and children through various social policies. President Park was invited to join the council when she was inaugurated as the first female leader of Korea in February of last year. Established in 1996, the council encourages young female leaders and aims to raise issues that are important to women.
Korea's Supreme Court on Thursday upheld a 4-year prison term for Choi Tae-won, the head of SK Group, for embezzling company funds. Choi was convicted of embezzling some $43 million from 2 SK Group subsidiaries to make personal investments in stock futures and options in 2008. His younger brother Choi Jae-won was sentenced to 3 years and 6 months behind bars for collusion. SK is the country's 3rd largest conglomerate and has more than 90 affiliates.
for your fill of Korean and international news. Join Chae Yu-sun and Mark Broom every weekday at lunchtime. Newsline at noon.
Plenary session this Wednesday and vote on the government restructuring bills.
Ukraine's interim leadership has selected the individuals it wants to form a new cabinet.
As the country's pro-Western interim leaders prepare to unveil the new government, Russia ordered surprise military exercises near the border with Ukraine, raising suspicions behind its true motive. Kim Min-ji reports.
Ukraine has announced its lineup for a new leadership following the ousting last week of President Viktor Yanukovych. The Maidan Council, Kiev's main protest camp, proposed Arseniy Yatsenyuk, a former economy minister, as prime minister, and Alexander Shlapak, former deputy head of the central bank, as finance minister. The full list of proposed leaders will be presented to Parliament on Thursday for official approval. If approved, officials will likely seek aid from Western powers to stave off default, as Russia is expected to back away from a $15 billion bailout program it offered Yanukovych. While Kiev is in the midst of a shaky transition, Moscow on Wednesday ordered surprise military exercises near the Ukrainian border. Although the war games are said to be nothing unusual, the timing raises suspicion of possible military intervention in Ukraine. Russia's defense ministry, however, said the exercises were to check combat readiness of armed forces and have nothing to do with Ukraine's internal affairs. To this, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry warned Moscow that any kind of military intervention that violates Ukraine's territorial integrity would be a grave mistake. Earlier Wednesday, pro-Ukraine and pro-Russia protesters clashed in the capital of Ukraine's Crimea region, where the majority of people are ethnic Russians, leaving one person dead and many others injured. Yanukovych fled Kiev last Friday after days of violence. The new government wants him tried at the International Criminal Court for ordering the killing of scores of anti-government protesters. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Former Japanese Prime Minister Naoto Kan has slammed the Shinzo Abe administration's plan to bring nuclear power back to Japan, accusing the government of showing no signs of self-reflection over the Fukushima disaster. Kan, as then Prime Minister, effectively shut down the Hamaoka nuclear plant and had called for a nuclear-free Japan following the incident in 2011. Kyodo News reported Kan told a parliamentary committee on Wednesday that there were concerns Tokyo could become inhabitable when the nuclear disaster occurred. Abe's new basic energy plan unveiled this week will push to bring Japan's 48 commercial reactors online if they pass safety tests, and could even see the construction of new ones.
Global sales of environmentally friendly cars hit a record high last year thanks to the increasing popularity of electric vehicles. The Korea Automotive Research Institute says almost 1.7 million eco-friendly cars were sold worldwide in 2013. That's up some 7.5% from the previous year. Sales of electric cars surged more than 110% to 95,000 units, double the number of units compared to 2012. Plug-in hybrid vehicles, a combination of hybrid and electric, also saw an increase of 18% on year to 52,000 units. Toyota, with its Prius hybrid, continues to be the market leader in the eco-friendly vehicle market.
Hello everyone, this is Kwon So-ah. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. Syrian troops have killed at least 175 rebels in an ambush, according to Syrian state media. State news agency Sana reported Wednesday that the attack occurred at dawn south of the capital Damascus, in the opposition-held area of eastern Ghouta. Most of the rebels were said to belong to one of the best organized Al-Qaeda-linked groups and were mostly foreigners from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Chechnya. The British-based activist group Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported the assault too, but said 70 rebels were killed. Australia's Qantas Airways announced on Wednesday it will cut 5,000 jobs or 15% of its workforce over the next 3 years, sell older jets and cut capital spending due to heavy financial losses, which they attributed to strong competition. CEO Alan Joyce expressed his regret but said it was an unavoidable decision made to preserve the business in the long term. Qantas lost around 250 million Australian dollars in just 6 months. The head of Mt. Gox, once the world's largest exchange for the virtual currency Bitcoin, has confirmed an earlier report that the company was the victim of a massive theft. Nearly 750,000 bitcoins, worth some $350 million are said to have been stolen. Chief Executive Mark Karpelus said in a statement on Mt. Gox's website that he's in Japan working with authorities to find a solution to the recent occurrences. Mt. Gox abruptly halted all of its transactions Tuesday. U.S. space agency NASA announced Wednesday it has discovered 715 new planets in our galaxy. Until now, the existence of only around 1,000 had been confirmed. 4 of the newly identified planets may be suitable for life. The planets were found by the so-called Kepler Space Telescope, which was launched in 2009 to discover planets that are in or near habitable zones similar to Earth.
Thank you to Soa there for the international news. And yesterday, which was the last Wednesday of the month, and that means it was Culture Day here in Korea.
From free admissions to museums to discount tickets, there's guaranteed to be something for everyone to enjoy. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won reports.
At Seoul Arts Center on Wednesday, Korea's representative performing arts venue. Hundreds of people gathered for a free concert as part of the government-led monthly Culture Day.
The concert tickets were distributed for free online, and in just 3 hours, all 440 tickets were booked. It really reflects a great level of interest towards the program. We once again realized there is a high demand for culture from all walks of life. So we will keep coming up with good programs to meet the demand.
I came here because my sister got tickets. It is awesome that we can listen to classical music on a regular basis with commentary that makes classical music easier to understand. It was also great to meet these very talented musicians.
It is just one of many cultural performances or exhibitions provided for free or at a discount on this Culture Day across the country, the second ever. President Park Geun-hye was among those taking part. She watched an original Korean musical in support of the government initiative. The first Culture Day in January was considered a success, and even more cultural institutions have joined in on the government initiative this month.
Last month, 883 cultural institutions participated in the Culture Day initiative. This month, more than 200 other institutions notified us about their intention to join in the Culture Day. That means more than 8,000 institutions are participating and providing more cultural benefits for the people.
Discounts on movie tickets are also being offered at 3 major movie chains, CGV, Lotte, and Megabox on Wednesday evening, while major entertainment companies like CJ E&M and PMC Production are providing discounts of up to 50% to its musicals. From this month on, tickets to sporting events will also be marked down on Culture Days. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Southern California is home to the largest community of Koreans outside of Korea. One of the best-known Korean Americans in the state is best-selling author and artist Helly Lee.
Yes, and our Hwang Ji-hye, currently in Los Angeles, had the chance to meet with her. Ji-hye.
Yes, guys, I did have a chance to sit down with Helly, and we had a nice chat about her experiences. Where I'm standing right now is also related to the story about Helly you're about to hear, because what you're seeing behind me is the Pantages Theater, one of the landmarks in Hollywood. Helly also put up a one-woman show in Hollywood, and what it was all about, take a look. Born in Seoul, Helly Lee was only 4 years old when her family moved to Montreal, Canada in 1968. After a year, the family settled in Los Angeles, and since then, her journey in search of her roots started. Helly's bestseller, Still Life with Rice and In the Absence of Sun, are also about her family's experience in Korea from the 1930s under Japan's colonial rule through the Korean War and until the late 1990s.
English was never something that I grasped or felt I had a talent towards. But it is ironically the thing that I became as an adult, and it is because of stories of my family.
Helly says a sense of identity, knowing where she comes from as a Korean, made her what she is today and will be tomorrow.
And if you don't understand who you are, you can't be present. And if you can't be present, there is no way you can envision a future. And I want to envision a future for myself. I want to envision a future for my twins. I want to envision a future for my community. And so it is crucial that we understand the metal of our back.
On that note, you lived as a man for more than 6 months. Tell me about your experience as a man and why did you do that?
I thought men had it better, boys had it better. And when I had the opportunity, I decided to experience that and to prove that what I was thinking was true.
It wasn't true.
No, the moment I did the transformation, I lived as a man for about 6.5 months. For the first month, it was very fun. Like every new experience, it was very fun. Everything seemed new, everything tasted new, looked new. But once I actually became absorbed in my male character, I realized that it is not always better on the other side of the fence.
As a male, Helly learned there is an image of masculinity that men always have to carry with them, and there are certain limitations that are not acknowledged by society. Drawing on her experiences, Helly performed a one-woman show in Hollywood that was so successful that it ran for 6 months instead of the 4-week run she had originally planned.
To contribute to the society by sharing her experiences. She says she wants to be a humanitarian, a good wife, a good daughter, and a mother, and make the world, and at least her community, a better place to live. Guys?
Well, she certainly sounds like a very interesting woman. Thank you very much, GA. That was Hwang Jie reporting from Los Angeles on the life and experiences of best-selling Korean-American author Helly Lee.
Good afternoon, I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, it's going to be another dusty day today, though it's better than yesterday with toxic smog levels showing moderately high in the Seoul and the surrounding areas and normal level in the rest of the country. Now, some of us believe that eating grilled pork belly or samgyeopsal helps filter toxins when the levels of dust or hwangsa are high, but the pork actually absorbs the dust, so experts suggest eating seaweed, pears, garlic, and plenty of green vegetables instead. Now, weather-wise, it's going to be a beautiful day, sunny and as mild as yesterday, so enjoy the nice weather condition if you're down south. But for people in the central region, try not to stay outdoors for too long. And it looks like we have a dusty weekend ahead of us because yellow dust is expected, but temperatures will stay on the mild side. So please keep that in mind, and here are the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul will get up to 13, and Daegu, Gwangju, and Busan will top out at 14, 16, and 15 respectively later in the afternoon. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will climb up to 13 and Daejeon will rise to 15, while the top temperature on Mount Keungang will jump up to 7 in the afternoon. Now that's all from me today, and hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
Very nice to see that spring is finally coming after a very long and cold winter. But those are the stories we're following at this hour.
Join us again tomorrow right here for Newsline at Noon.